Hello all of you lovely people, Jules here for Whatculture.com, and I want to talk to you about films and the fact that we overanalyze nearly everything about them. Now usually this comes to our betterment. We obviously find loads of Easter eggs, we find secret scenes, we find hidden moments that make the overall film that much more special. But there are some directors out there that like to actually punish us for looking too deeply and too closely at their scenes with jokes at our expense or, well, just plain mocking us outright. Apocalypto. After the surprise blockbuster success of 2004's extremely dark, gritty religious epic The Passion of the Christ, all eyes were on Lethal Weapon star Mel Gibson's next move as a director. The controversial actor had already seen some serious success with his debut Oscar-winning epic Braveheart, so where does one even go from there? Well, the answer, of course, is that you just go further back in time and get a lot more violent. 2007's gory, kinetic Apocalypto was a stripped-down, uber-intense chase movie following a lone farmer through the lethal journey to save his tribe from becoming Mayan sacrifices. Violent, propulsive and raw, the film proved that Gibson was unconcerned with mainstream approval despite his blockbuster past. And never was the director's uncaring approach made clearer though than in one gag that he decided to slip into the film for more canny viewers. If you freeze frame this somber, deathly serious film as the camera pans over a mass grave over Mayan corpses, you will see that there is a Waldo of Where's Waldo fame, or Where's Wally here in the UK, just chilling out in this burial ground, just for the director's own amusement. Weird. Black Mirror. Trust a show as willfully contemptuous of its audience as Black Mirror to crack a joke at those actually scanning the screen for Easter eggs. Now, the show's fourth season contains two devilishly cheeky call-outs to inquisitive viewers. Early on in the episode, Crocodile, protagonist Mia, is handed a piece of paper which appears on screen for just a few short seconds, and those who bothered to pause the shot would find that there's a secret message on that paper making fun of their obsessiveness. One of the paragraphs reads, "Of course, the real question is why anyone would pause what they're watching just to read a sentence in a printed out newspaper article." Says a voice in your head before advising you to go share this finding on Reddit. Adorably, the secret was actually uncovered on Reddit itself. Now, things get even sneakier later on in the season, in the episode Metalhead. Here, a car dashboard screen contains numerous references to previous Black Mirror episodes, and also includes the ridiculous provocation, "Why did you bother pausing this, you freak?" Never change, Charlie Brooker. Election. A critically acclaimed financial flop for its director Alexander Payne, 1999's Election was one of many deadpan black comedies from the Sideways creator which failed to find an audience upon release but soon won cult critical acclaim in the years that followed. The same could be said for the even earlier Citizen Ruth, an even darker politically charged satire that the director wrote back in 1996. Election follows a painfully peppy, secretly sociopathic Reese Witherspoon as an overachieving anti-heroine, and also sees lovable sad sack Matthew Broderick reverse his Ferris Bueller's fortunes by playing her embittered civics teacher. Now, Broderick is determined to take down this overachiever, but he can't see the venom beneath her cheery exterior, resulting in a darkly comic satire classic. Now, late in the film, one character leafs through a newspaper extremely briefly. It's a minor moment that few fans will even notice, let alone think to freeze frame. However, those that do will be treated to an article which, well, admonishes them for taking the time to freeze frame and wasting their time reading the article, all the whilst advertising the creator's earlier film. The text reads, "If you've paused the film to read this entire article, your time would be better spent renting Citizen Ruth from your local video store," which you have to admit is an undeniably effective bit of sarcastic advertising. Bones. One of the all-time most brilliantly absurd Easter eggs in TV history appears in Bones' Season 5 episode, The Dwarf in the Dirt. In one of the opening scenes, an incredibly familiar, non-human X-ray is visible for a few seconds behind Vincent, and yes, that is none other than Homer Simpson himself. This wasn't merely a cute case of Fox giving some free advertising to one of their most famous shows, but a nod to the fact that Homer's voice actor makes a fleeting live-action appearance in the episode as Officer Navarro. The X-ray is easily missed, but if you do notice it, you're sure to end up choking on your drink, and Fox clearly knew this. Deadpool No Good Deed. At only 4 minutes, the hilarious Deadpool short film No Good Deed is easily the briefest entry on this list, but it doesn't take long for Ryan Reynolds' wisecracking self-referential superhero to tear through his own audience of fans just from actually liking what he does. Like a lot of entries on this list, this gag is hidden in the closing credits of 2017's Blackly comic short, which was shown before the outstanding Wolverine outing Logan upon its initial cinematic release. The short itself sees a mugger successfully rob and then then murder a man whilst Wade is busy trying to fit into his supersuit, which is a deeply Deadpool subversion of the classic superhero changing outfits in a phone booth trope. But it's actually after the film technically ends that the director gets in their dig at over-enthusiastic viewers. If you freeze frame the credits to this one, you'll be treated to not one joke, but an entire book written by Wade Wilson himself, and the subject is on Hemingway's classic The Old Man and the Sea, in a not-so-subtle nod that hints at Logan's sad ending for viewers that are paying way too much attention to this one. Futurama. From one Fox show to another now, with Matt Groening's legendary Simpsons follow-up, Futurama. Now, the series as a whole is jam-packed with cute nods for eagle-eyed viewers to catch, though this reaches a whole other level when it comes to the show's Alienese language. Alienese is featured in a large number of Futurama episodes. Unsurprisingly, fans of the show quickly managed to translate. Now, there are two major instances where the show used Alienese to actually gently rib its viewers. In the Season 1 finale of Fry and the Slurm Factory, an eye chart reads, "No squinting, Four Eyes," and the Season 4 finale, Spanish Fry, features Alienese text in its opening title sequence, which translates to, "Thanks for watching Futurama Slave Army." This was at once a validation of all those who actually bothered to translate the Alienese, while also being an acknowledgement that the show itself has fans eating out of the palm of its hand. Mulholland Drive. Hollywood's reigning king of, utter weirdness, David Lynch, has an undeniable talent for messing with his audience. However, unlike many entries on this list, his mind-screwing antics are more trippy than funny. But rest assured, this one still makes fun of any viewer hoping to glean some new clues and make sense of things with a close rewatch. The only difference is that almost anyone who watches Mulholland Drive will need to rewatch it at least once to even understand what they're seeing. So a gag making fun of over-enthusiastic viewers is actually pretty rich coming from Lynch. This trippy head melter of a film follows an actor who befriends a woman suffering from amnesia, only for a later twist to prove that they were the same person, or possibly not. Like I said, it's a real head and one whose surreal tone and strange structure leave many viewers carefully rewatching to uncover some new interpretations. Take for example the scene where the amnesiac woman reads from a script which the viewer barely even glimpses, but if you freeze frame it, you'll be able to see that it's a real script page from Mulholland Drive, the very film that she is starring in. Wait, what? It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. If you watched even just a few episodes of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, you'll probably recognize the show's perennial end tag for production company RCG, which comes complete with a garbled, incomprehensible sound effect. In actual fact, the sound is a human voice that's being played backwards, as if you rewind the tag, you'll find a hidden message recorded by the main cast, which changes every season. Though most of the messages throughout the seasons have simply been random, surreal banter, the Season 1 tag contains the pointed put-down of, "You're stupid for playing this forward." And to make it even more personal and invasive, the line is spoken by none other than the show's absolute psychopath, Dennis Reynolds. A Scanner Darkly. Released in 2006, Richard Linklater's A Scanner Darkly is, a pretty big tonal departure from the Before Sunset director's last film, 2003's School of Rock. A trippy and intense thriller, A Scanner Darkly is adapted from a semi-autobiographical novel by Philip K. Dick. The father of psychedelic sci-fi, Dick was famous for his complex plots and hard-to-follow sci-fi satires. The author, who suffered with drug addiction himself, wrote Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which went on to become the original cyberpunk movie Blade Runner in 1982. A Scanner Darkly deals in similar territory to Blade Runner, following an undercover agent who infiltrates a group of drug users and finds that after indulging in the same psychoactive substances as them, that he has more in common with the supposed criminals than his fellow cops. Soon the line between reality and imagination begins to blur, and it's understandable that viewers would then scour the film for clues as to its true meaning. In doing so, the audience is actually likely to notice the small, fast-moving text on one of the surveillance screens from within the film. And if you are able to read it, you'll find out that it says that it's actually the screenplay for Blade Runner, in a twisty meta joke that folds the film's reality/fiction jumble in on itself, kinda like a brain omelette. Breaking Bad. There are few TV shows with fan bases as passionately devoted as Breaking Bad, with fans avidly scanning every last possible frame of every single episode in the pursuit of sneaky references and Easter eggs. But the crew decided to have a little bit of fun with fans in the Season 5 episode Rabid Dog, as those that decided to peruse Hank Schrader's bookshelf looking for plot foreshadowing would instead discover a universe-breaking piece of media. Nestled amongst the books is a DVD of the Breaking Bad series itself, which no doubt caused many fans to plunge down a logical rabbit hole as they tried to figure out how the DVD could actually exist within the show's universe, rather than, just accepting that it's a cute joke and nothing more. Scary Movie. And now from the sublime to the utterly ridiculous. Adored by audiences and abhorred by critics, Scary Movie was a horror movie spoof from 2000 which reignited the then failing parody film genre by injecting some R-rated raunch into the mix. Hilariously obscene, this spoof took aim at everything from teen horrors like Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer to more unexpected targets like The Usual Suspects and Amistad. It's during a parody of that hit that the film takes a swipe at viewers who are paying close attention, warning them that this is a goofy parody film and therefore not worth investing too much excess time or attention in. As the trailer for Amistad 2 begins, a quick freeze frame on its rating reveals the following message for viewers. The following PE view has been ass-proved for immature audiences only. If you can read this, you are too close. PP, poopy, boogers, farts, butthole. Rate I for immature. We thought it would be funny to put this here, kiss our asses and put it off pause. Oh me, oh my, surely this is the height of comedy. Homeland. A very different kind of gag now, because it wasn't actually one authorized by anyone creatively involved within the TV show itself. In Homeland's early season 5 episode, The Tradition of Hospitality, Carrie arrives at a refugee camp near the Lebanese and Syrian border, where Arabic graffiti is spray painted all over the walls. But the 3 artists hired to spray paint the set ultimately decided to voice their true opinion on the show's politics, as the writing on the left-hand side of the wall actually translates to "Homeland is racist." Other areas of the set were painted with phrases such as "Homeland is a joke and it didn't make us laugh" and hashtag Black Lives Matter. And one of the artists actually even put out a statement saying, "We think the show perpetuates dangerous stereotypes by diminishing an entire region into a farce through gross misinterpretations that feed into a narrative of political propaganda." Though you'd obviously need an understanding of Arabic to discover these messages for yourself, it's nothing if not a defiant flipping of the bird at both the series as a whole and the viewers complicit in spreading propaganda. Gremlins 2: The New Batch. Written and directed by the first film's director Joe Dante, Gremlins 2: The New Batch received little love from critics upon its initial release in 1990. Sillier, more fast-paced, and far more self-referential than its darker and more self-serious predecessor, Gremlins 2 is a wild ride, which takes satirical aim at everything about modern America, as well as spoofing the very idea of sequels and the original film itself. The anarchic, freewheeling comedy was too much for some audiences at the time, but luckily the film has since been revived as an underrated cult classic. However, one reason that audiences were turned off might be thanks to a meta joke that was hidden within the film. If you stick around for the closing credits of this tight, hilarious sequel, you'll be rewarded with a Chuck Jones animated Daffy Duck berating you for staying around. That's it, no stinger or post-credits sequence or similar treat, just an infamous cartoon anti-hero demanding, "Don't you people have homes to go to?" The Office. The American version of The Office is a masterpiece of setups and payoffs, and also is a show that both rewards and mocks those who pay attention to every last possible frame. In the show's 4th ever episode, The Alliance, we're given a brief glimpse of the Dunder Mifflin employee newsletter, which appears to feature a few paragraphs of the usual nondescript placeholder text that you'd expect to see in any movie or TV newspaper. But if you actually bothered to read it, there's an hilarious, sarcastic surprise waiting for you in the 2nd paragraph, which reads, "As anybody can easily tell, this newsletter doesn't really have a lot to say. It's really just a prop to fill some space and sort of look like a newsletter without really being much of a newsletter at all. By typing a lot of words in 2 columns on the front of this page, we can achieve the look of a newsletter without really reporting much news or provide any real information to the reader at all. In fact, at times we can probably get away with not even using real English words such as, and I can't even pronounce it, Kuchwibwopo and Otchukwik, or the much beloved These words can also be strung together to form a sentence, paragraph, or even a whole prop book, magazine, or newspaper. Absolutely genius. Wrongfully Accused. An absurd, fast-paced spoof from Naked Gun star Leslie Nielsen, 1998's Wrongfully Accused takes the premise of the Harrison Ford vehicle The Fugitive from a few years earlier and uses its conceit as a launching board to parody pretty much every major movie from the entirety of the 90s. This mile-a-minute spoof includes parodies of Braveheart, Baywatch, and Mission Impossible, taking constant diversions from its supposed focus to spoof other well-known properties from the decade. Like 1996's Spy Hard, it's a messy and uneven comedy, but its heart is in the right place, and the film is elevated by a typically brilliant turn-in by Nielsen in the starring role. It's also another movie that takes a leaf out of the Simpsons joke book by poking fun at anyone willing to pay attention to the credits. When most viewers have just flicked off the film, anyone who does stick around for the closing credits of this one will be treated to a few minutes of normal credits, followed by a category that is called, people that nobody cares about, at which point text scroll throws up a stream of names, suddenly moving far too fast for any viewer to pause pause and try to keep up with. Community. Throughout its run, Community was an extremely meme-friendly show, with countless moments per episode becoming viral sensations as images as GIFs were spread around online, and yes, I'll always call them GIFs. In typically meta fashion, creator Dan Harmon decided to lean into this as the show reached the end of its original NBC run. In the first part of the Season 5 finale basic story, the ever-present whiteboard contains the message, "This may be your last chance for a screen capture," with a space even left for fans to add their own scrawlings. The whiteboard has hosted countless gags throughout the series, but never one quite so keen to engage with or rib those that mostly obsessed with it. Frozen. As anyone familiar with Walt Disney can tell you, if there's one thing that the House of Mouse takes very seriously, it is litigation in many forms, which makes this joke hidden in their 2013 smash hit Frozen even more unexpected and quite surprising. Frozen sees Disney retell The Snow Queen as a story of two sisters, one of whom learns that she can control the weather by magic, while the other is sent on an adventure to retrieve her from a self-imposed exile. However, viewers who pay close attention to the film's credits will be rewarded with a rather unexpected declaration from the company, as they state, "The views and opinions expressed by Kristoff in the film that all men eat their own boogers are solely his own and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Walt Disney Company or the filmmakers. Neither the Walt Disney Company nor the filmmakers make any representation of the accuracy of any such views and opinions." Silicon Valley. So here's a gag which fans actually spotted in the trailer for Silicon Valley's 5th season. When Gavin Belson is shown practicing his presentation, he stood in front of a large string of binary code. Now naturally, fans immediately suspected that it contained a hidden message for attentive viewers and so decided to decode it into English, only to find themselves being thoroughly trolled. In actual fact, the binary code reads, "Find a hobby for God's sake." What a perfect indictment of the obsessive, tech-loving nerds who actually cared enough to translate this code. Fight Club. Probably the most infamous example on this list, David Fincher's satirical masterpiece Fight Club is a film which could not have been more disrespectful to its own viewers. It's actually a big part of the Blackley Comics film's charm, as Tyler Durden and the nameless narrator's descent into madness constantly flips a middle finger at the audience, who were probably expecting a much more self-serious adaptation of the novel of the same name. I mean, just look at Tyler's laughing dismissal of the flashback humor late in the film, or many moments where characters look straight into the camera. But the most infamous instance of this film mocking the viewer for paying attention, however, doesn't even come from the film proper. Viewers had to wait until the film's DVD release to see the FBI anti-piracy warning before the film. For viewers who freeze frame to read such things, they realise that it's not actual usual legal jargon, but rather a bracing tirade courtesy of the film's anti-villain himself. If you are reading this, then this warning is for you. Every word you read of this useless fine print is another second of your life. Don't you have other things to do? Is your life so empty that you honestly can't think of a better way to spend these moments? Or are you so impressed with authority that you give respect and credence to all who claim it? Do you read everything you're supposed to read? Oh, when you put it like that, maybe we shouldn't be looking too closely at these films. Arrested Development. Arrested Development is one of the most densely layered TV shows ever made, with practically every single scene containing hidden callbacks to prior episodes and ridiculous foreshadowing for coming events. Fans are absolutely encouraged to scan every shot for hidden details, though in the Season 3 finale, Development Arrested, which was actually the final episode before it was revived by Netflix 7 years later, the creators actually decided to poke some fun at it all. When it's explained that Rita has become a Hollywood executive, we're shown the cover of a Variety issue, and those who peer over to the bottom right-hand corner will see a piece entitled "TV DVD Sales Enjoy All-Time High." It doesn't actually stop there though, as the ensuing article basically takes aim at both Fox for failing to realise the series' cult popularity and audiences who slept on the show until it hit DVD. The choice quote of "Who knew that booming DVD sales would actually slit the wrists of the industry that spawned them? After all, why bother to tape, TiVo or watch TV shows when you can just wait for the box set to come out?" And in a brutal confession of the shifting TV economy, the article continues, product placement may end up being one of the few avenues for revenues to remain open after everyone fast forwards through commercials or flat out isn't forced to watch them with their DVD. As much as this gag was expressing passive-aggressive contempt for Fox, for audiences, and for the entire TV business, at least you might have learned something from it, right?